Raya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Adanta Koti Vaishnava ki, Shri 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 Ashtakam ki. Hare Krishna. So, ready for part 2? I had the challenge this morning of competing with the smell is coming from the kitchen. Now I have the challenge of competing with food coma. So, I guess that means it better be especially entertaining, which I'm not. So, let's see. But thank you all for giving this opportunity to discuss this most glorious set of instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just do a quick refresher. So we covered the first 3 verses of our Shikshashtakam prayers. And just a reminder, so the first 5 verses cover our sadhana bhakti, the practice of bhakti through regulated procedures. Then verses 6 and 7 are going to cover bhava bhakti. And then 7 and 8 will cover prema bhakti, the ultimate achievement that we can work through. So the first 3 verses and even the 4th verse, a little technical, maybe a little heavy. And then as we get towards the end, we get to very sweet experiences that we'll discuss. So it kind of lightens up as we go, but also establishes a pretty high bar that will bring us back to our surrender and dependence on the holy names as our only means to climb this mountain, to reach this pinnacle of spiritual success. So the first verse hopefully gives us faith in why chanting is the core of everything we do. Because the holy names are bedecked with these 7 amazing perfections that make it the process for spiritual advancement. It cleanses the heart of all of its misgivings. Again, extinguishes the fire of this conditional life. It is the soothing rays of the moon that awakens Krishna Prema. It gives us this ocean of bliss. We all want happiness and bliss. It is through the chanting of the holy names that we'll actually be able to relish and taste real happiness. And of course, the holy names themselves are the purifying process by which we can remove all of our the contaminants that prevent us from tasting the holy names. This impurity, it's what why we don't have the real taste for the holy names, right? Just like if you had a very nice bowl of sweet rice and it is cooked with Mother Yashoda's best milk, and the best of rice and sugar, and everything is boiled and proportioned to perfection, and it is this sweet rice. The smell is coming, unbelievable. But within that is 1 teaspoon of sand. What happens to the sweet rice? You'll get the taste, you'll enjoy it, you'll relish it. So the impurity within is what holds us back from experiencing the bliss of that sweet rice. So similarly, the heart, it has its impurities. Let's own them. They're there. But the beauty is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the means to be free from them. And when we do, then the taste, the ruchi, the rasa of the holy names will emerge. So we may not be tasting it today, which is natural, but by the process of chanting, we'll remove those grains of sand one by one. And we know if you try to pick out the grains of sand yourself, would you have any success? It's impossible. So just like that, removing these anarthas on our own volition is impossible. But by the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and taking to the process he gave us, there's only one topic in all 8 verses. What is that? Chanting. He's very purposeful in his mission. And so by that mercy, we can actually achieve it. So that's the start. But as we said in verse 2, despite all of these great benedictions, despite all of Krishna's energies invested in these names, despite that there's no hard and fast rules for chanting these names, what's my misfortune? Not enough cake at prasadam time? My misfortune is no attraction for the holy names. If we cement in our heart from this point forward that is actually our only misfortune, our only durdevam, is not enough attraction to the holy names, we will soon achieve perfection of life. It's that simple. If you really want to do it, just tattoo it on your arm. My only misfortune is not my spouse, is not my lack of visas, not my lack of zeros in my bank account. It is Durdevam Idrisha Mahajani Na Anuragaha. No, sorry. No raga attachment to the holy. And of course, why, despite so much chanting, hearing, reading, we don't have? Because of the offenses to the holy names. Nama Aparad. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur are guiding us that we must work to eliminate very conscientiously the offenses. And with that, then the attachment to the holy names will manifest. And when we do, we will be adorned with these 4 beautiful qualities of beautiful hair, the qualities of Trunadapi, Sunichena, Torodapi Sahishna, Amanina Manadena. This humility, this tolerance, this offering respects far and wide and expecting none in return. That is the result of good chanting. It is not the result of anything else. It is through good chanting that these 4 qualities manifest. And in that, we will kirtanaya sadahari, continuously swim in the ocean of nectar of the names of Hari. So that is the first 3 verses that we discussed. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm just going to fast forward through this because wasn't. And we'll come to verse 4. So like we did last time, we'll chant the verse, read the translation, and then get into the proposal. Nadanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhakti rahitaki tvai. Translation. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causes, devotional service, birth after birth. So it's a very powerful verse. So we saw in, again, verse 3 that chanting without offenses brings about these beautiful qualities. And now Bhakti Vinod Thakur is telling us that if a sadhaka's attachment to material pleasures is not severed, then his sambandha, this relationship with Krishna, will not fully manifest. So our progress to Krishna Prema from sadhana bhakti is predicated on this detachment from our material hankaras. So Rupa Goswami explains in the beginning of Nectar Devotion, this very famous verse you all know, Nyavilashita Shunyam Gyana Kamadinavatam Nuko in a Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. So what makes Bhakti Uttama so pleasing is the Krishna Anushilanam, this favorable Anukulina Krishna Anushilanam, this favorable desire to serve Krishna. But what makes it pure, just like what makes that sweet rice pure, is the absence of something, the absence of that sand. So what makes bhakti pure is the absence of any desires, any personal desires. That I'm chanting, I'm serving the Lord because I want some wealth, I want followers, I want fame, I want these different things. That is not pure bhakti. And that will not give us this desired goal that we have, is to enjoy fully in the ocean of the holy name. So this verse is giving us the indication that the highest stage of bhakti cannot manifest until we become free from the immaterial attachments. So this is the point. So the impediments, what are they? Desire for wealth, najanam, desire for followers, and nasundarim, desire for beautiful women. Now, just technically, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur both refer to this nasundarim to refer to the flowery words and poetic literatures of mundane nature. But of course, Srila Prabhupada kind of guided us to this translation so we can understand it in both contexts. Because ultimately, mundane literature is there to fuel our lustful attachments so that we can think is the connectivity. But just from a technical perspective, that was the connectivity there. So we see in this verse, this topic, Janmani Jananish. So how much we must purify of desires, that even the desire for liberation is not important to the devotee. Right? Because a devotee is not concerned about their geographic position, whether I'm in the spiritual world or whether I am in the material world. That is not of concern. So what is the desire of the devotee? Remember that when we say anyabilashita shunyam, no desires, can we become desireless? Because the soul is active. So because the soul is active, there has to be desires. So it is not about having no desires, it's about having no material desires. But we must be full of spiritual desires. And this is where Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita come into play for us. Because the great devotees, the great personalities, they have understood what we should really desire. I often use this example. If you give a choice to a 4-year-old boy or girl, it won't be gender specific, you can have 5 chocolates or you can have 5 diamonds. What that person's boy, young boy or girl is going to take? Now, would we consider that a good desire? Is that intelligent? According to their knowledge, yes. But according to complete, no. Because their desire is that if they took the diamond, how many chocolates they could have? So like that, in our immature consciousness, we go to the Lord and we ask for relief from all these different things we think are afflicting us. Oh, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough job, fame, this, that. Oh, a long list we give. And that list is evolving. What we asked for 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we laugh. Oh, that fool, what was I thinking? I'm doing the same thing today in a different flavor. That's it. So what we learn from the prayers of the great personalities is, what do they pray for? What are they praying for? Because they have become enlightened. And by that, following that mood, we understand. And our deepest prayer is to have the intelligence to know that what is really beneficial for me is attachment to the holy names and detachment from all of my material desires that are preventing me from experiencing the bliss of the holy names. So when we pray to the Lord this way, He becomes very pleased. Oh, my dear child is now asking for my help for something worthy. When we ask for a few pieces of chocolate. So the process for us is to understand that this unconditional service is the key for us. Not Krishna, I'll serve you if, no ifs, just render service. And we're going to see this mood in perfection when we discuss the 8th verse. And we'll read a few verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. They'll blow our mind as to how beautiful they are. So these material attachments are very deeply rooted. So we must be very aggressive to attack them. We should not be whimsical about them. Millions and millions of births we have been chasing these desires, and none of it satisfied us. And so we must be very attentive and very strong to detach from these, right? And Krishna explains to Arjuna, why this attachment is so dangerous. And he explains how, Arjuna is wondering, this all sounds so logical, right? Material equals bad, spiritual equals good. Pretty simple. I don't need a PhD to know that. But seemingly people are dragged by an invisible force to sinful life. So what does Krishna say is the cause? What is dragging them? Gravity. What is dragging? Lust. Lust. This lust born out of material attachment. And then the cycle is ultimately our complete destruction. And he explains that in the 2nd chapter. So this conquering of lust is very, very powerful. And again, we'll use the recent example, right? Lord Ramchandra. What was the result of his lust? Success? Victory? Complete devastation. Came to see Ravan lying dead. She is not lamenting at Lord Ram for, killing Ravan. What is she saying? You fool! You have left us unprotected now because of your lust. She had intelligence. She knew what was the cause of Ravan's downfall. It was not the arrows of Lord Ram. It was this lust. So this material attachment we have to sever. And by meditating on this 4th verse from Shikshashtakam, we have some hope to overcome. And we should remember why we remain attached. Right? If you have a $5 bill and I say, okay, will you exchange that to me for this $1 bill? Any of you are going to detach from your $5 bill? Nobody? If I have a $20 bill and you have your $5 bill, now will you detach from your $5 bill? Yeah, obviously. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or an economist to know that's a good trade. Because we are trading something of lesser value for higher value. It's easy. So Krishna tells us, right, this Param Jistva Nivartate in 2nd chapter only, Bhagavad Gita, that this higher taste of bhakti is the only way in which you'll detach from the lower taste of material life. So, but we're not tasting that. Right now, we are in this jaundiced condition, right? So what is of low value we think is high, and what is of high value we think is low. So what to do? Follow the process. Follow the process. Even though we are not yet internally inclined, using intelligence, understanding that this is truly the high taste. Follow the process. And what is that process? Chanting. That will detach us and sever the ties to all of our material hindrances. Assuredly. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, we measure our progress in bhakti by how many verses we have memorized, how many bhajans of Narottam Das Thakur I know. He says we measure our progress by how much I have detached from my material hankerings. Today, compared to 6 months ago, am I more or less attached? Don't measure in days increments. Months is good. 6 months, a year. That should be our measure. If we have detached more, I'm watching less TV, doing less this, that, whatever your is, okay, you are making progress. So this is how we can objectively evaluate, am I achieving the results of verse 1? We'll come back to more on this. Now we get to verse number 5, last verse of our Sambandha Gyan. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mamishame babam budao kripaya tava pada pankaja stita duli sajasam vachintaya. O son of Maharajananda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I've fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So there's two main points in this verse that we're going to really sort of pull out from this. The first, and very important, please pick me up. I kind of hinted at it earlier. Please pick me up. What does this mean? It means that we are fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. We are fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Again, that is our definition of humility, knowing my full dependence. So our success in spiritual life will be based on Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy must come. Thus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very, again, purposefully and exactingly says, please pick me up from this ocean. Just like a child, I gave that example. If they want to go from here to the kitchen, a baby, infant, what is their only hope? So why do we put our hands up in kirtan? They're telling Krishna. Just like a child who puts hands up. That's a signal. Pick me up, right? Any baby puts their hands up, pick me up. Mothers know. We are telling to go around, pick us, pick me up and lift me from this ocean of suffering. So this is a very, very important point in this verse, that we are dependent on mercy. Now the second point is even more important. That we must first have intense desire. Baby is picked up when the hands go up. We must desire. We must be, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the last verse said, right, make me your servant birth after birth. So we have to have the strength of desire, intense desire. And when we desire, Krishna's mercy will come. In Bhava Bhakti, one of the symptoms is called Ashabandha. It says that there's such a strong conviction that Krishna's mercy will come. In one way, it looks like almost like arrogance, that Krishna's mercy has to come. But it's actually born out of pure humility, that knowing that I only have Krishna's mercy to survive. And so it has to come. But that mercy is coming based on intense desire. Right? So it's confidence that Krishna's mercy will come, but not confidence in one's own self, that I can do it. That is through my own. No. But at the same time, we must do our part. Prabhupada used to always use this example of a farmer. Right? A farmer can pray for rains. But if a farmer does not do his part and cultivate the fields and plant the seeds, when the rains come, will anything happen? No. So we can't just sit back and wait for Krishna's mercy to come. We have to do our part. But at the same time, if the farmer cultivates the fields and plants the seeds, will anything happen on itself? No. Rains must come. So this is how mercy and desire intersect. We're going to see this very clearly in our Dhamma Bandhana pastime discussions. Right? But our effort must be there, like the farmer. We must do our part. And that is, what is our part in this scenario? It is our determination. Our intense eagerness should be very strong. So how to understand the eagerness? So far throughout Shikshashtakam, we've seen, forest fire, we have seen ocean of bliss, right? We've seen the moon rays. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is using different terms to help us comprehend or to contextualize a particular point. So here, he uses another amazing point. Where are we? Ocean of birth. So how strong your desire would be if you're thrown into middle of an ocean, being smashed by giant waves. Would you be like, yeah, tomorrow would be nice to get out? Yeah, maybe I'll come next week to the temple. Maybe I'll start chanting tomorrow, not today. No, how strong your desire would be. It would be immediate. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, as eager, but not only eager, how desperate you would be. Because you know one thing when you're in the middle of the ocean. What is that? You can't save yourself. You know definitively. You can be an Olympic Michael Phelps swimmer in the middle of an ocean, no matter, you're done. So you have conviction. You can't save yourself. This is the mood in which we must approach the holy names. Chanting our japa, knowing I am in the middle of an ocean, drowning, so desperate to get out. And at that moment, am I going to answer a WhatsApp message? No. This is where attentive chanting comes. When we understand what our actual condition is. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is using, again, this very beautiful example for us. And then we know our only hope for survival is the life vest from the Supreme Lord. And of course, if we are intense in our desire, Krishna will never fail us. He will never fail us. He is always there to protect us. Right? So this verse brings us to this understanding. We need the mercy of Krishna. Please pick me up. And I must have intense desire. And the equivalent desire of drowning in the middle of an ocean. So we can understand that. That desire we have to replicate every time we chant the holy names. Then we'll make progress. And of course, we see our sambandha. What is our relationship with Krishna? What is, eternal servitor. Not just servitor until I purify the heart and awaken Krishna prema. I am eternal servitor. So this verse concludes our Sambandha Gyan with this very powerful statement that we are eternally the servant of the Lord. So this chanting of the holy names, we see the effect. Right? We started with no attraction. Then we learn how to chant constantly through these beautiful qualities, severing all our material desires with intense desire and to remain Krishna's eternal servant. So this is the result of one's chanting. So before we go to verse 6 now, we'll just kind of refresh. I think most of you must be familiar with the 9 steps from Shraddhata Prem, right? So we see, how long does it take to get to Baba? Right? So the road from the beginning to Baba Bhakti is very long. It only took us 5 verses in Shikshashtakam and a couple of hours. But this is a very important that this last 3 verses now are entering steps 8 and 9 of this process. Of course, we start with our faith. And that faith inspires us to associate with devotees. And in association, we begin to bhajana kriya, practice. Right? We become inspired to follow the principles. And it's through the practice of spiritual life that will remove the anarthas. And only after we are anartha nivritti, free of our anarthas, free of those impurities, then we can become fixed. Because if I have material desires and spiritual desires, I'm going to split. Only until I reduce all to zero, I can be 100% focused in spiritual life. That will happen only when I have freed all my other material desires. So this is this unearthed individual. Then when I'm fixed, fully focused, then the taste comes. So we're wondering when the taste of the holy names come. When the taste of the holy name. When the taste will come? After we have freed ourselves of our unearthedness. When the taste of that sweet rice is going to come? When all those grains of sand have been removed. So similarly, that process is the most critical, because from there the fix comes. And when the taste comes, oh Krishna, one cannot get enough. Addiction. We talk about addiction being a problem. It's not a problem. It's just we are addicted to the wrong things. Because the Shakti is like this intense addiction where one cannot be separated for even a few moments. We'll see that in verse 7. But this is the result of the taste. When we taste the holy names, game over to all other things. Because it's so sweet that you'll just want to chant again and again and again. Because it's so sweet. Then Bhava Bhakti can start, and of course Krishna. So while we may say, oh, I have a long way to go, what do we have in our hand? The powerful tool, rocket fuel, to get us from wherever we are today to this. So that's where we're going next, starting in verse 6. So we can chant this today. Nayanam galarashu daraya varanam gagadarudaya gira pulakaye nijitam babukada tabanama gahane bhavishyati. Oh my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy names? When will my voice shook up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? So what are we seeing here? These are the symptoms of Bhava Bhakti in devotional service. It's a very advanced stage. Again, free of all anarthas, fully fixed, having experienced the taste. One tongue is not sufficient to chant. I want so many because it's not enough. So this Bhava Bhakti that we're seeing, Rupa Goswami explains, it's like the budding stage of Krishna Prem. So from sadhana bhakti to Bhava Bhakti is a very long journey. But from Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti is just around the corner. And the example is given of a budding flower. When you see a budding flower on a plant, what do you know is coming soon? A fully bloomed flower. So similarly, when the bud appears, it means that Krishna Prema is right around the corner. And this, it means that the heart has become sufficiently soft. This Halari Shakti, this Sambit Shakti, this ability to understand and experience the happiness of Krishna consciousness, it becomes inserted into the heart. By who? Krishna. By Krishna. Krishna bestows that mercy upon us when we have made ourselves suitable enough to receive it. And so it is in this verse that the chanting of the holy names becomes very intensified. At this stage, when one reaches Bhava Bhakti, the chanting becomes very, very intensified. And we see this in great, great personalities. Of course, Haridas Thakur being the most prominent and most wonderful example for us. Right? So how to get to this stage, how to get to this point, you know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking the question, when? One, there should be eagerness, and two, mercy of Krishna. Right? And this is where our sadhana bhakti comes into play. Our sadhana is a regulated practice of our bhakti. We have to have an aim. What is my goal of sadhana? If I have a goal, then my execution will be more sincere. Just like I was giving this example to somebody before the break, that if I go to the gym and I don't have a goal, I just kind of go, I'll get some benefit. But if I go to the gym and my goal is to, whatever, be able to do 50 push-ups in a month, or be able to run 10 miles, or I have some goal, then what is the sincerity of my execution in the gym with a goal? It's better, right? It's more focused. So if I approach my sadhana with a goal, and what is that goal? To awaken these ecstatic symptoms of spiritual life. Then the intensity of my sadhana increases nicely. So we have to establish purpose, right? Our intention will come, it should be established. Then attention will follow. So bring the purpose of achieving the. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is begging, when? We have to inculcate that mood. It's like, when will my voice falter? And when will the hair stand on it? When am I going to experience the joy and bliss of spiritual life? So we should approach our sadhana with this very strong prayerful mood. Then the results will come. Because the pace, how long it takes, in whose hands is that? No, it's in ours. Krishna will reciprocate according to the intensity of our desires. According to the intensity of our desires. So, how long it takes is in our hands. How exactingly and intentionally and enthusiastically we follow the principles. Because, again, in Bhava Bhakti, what the practitioner knows, Krishna's mercy has to come. That much you can have. Narottam Das Thakur in many of his bhajans, he tells Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you want to be called Patita Pavan, you have to deliver me. Because I am most fallen. Otherwise, no one can call you Patita Pavan. That's very sweet, but it's filled with humility. Right? So the same way, Krishna's mercy will come. So these are just, I put them here. We won't discuss them in detail, but these are the 9 symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. This all comes in from Nectar of Devotion. And very sweet, what we see, this, intense focus on utilizing all of our time in spiritual life, right? This perseverance, right? We get some setbacks. What do? Do we remain steadfast or do we give up? Right? This detachment to sense enjoyment. This detachment in Bhava Bhakti is like this, though. Our detachment might be, okay, I have to stop associating with this because I cannot avoid the temptations. In Bhava Bhakti, one can be in the midst of any temptation, but it doesn't even register because their consciousness is so elevated. And Srila Prabhupada, I think I can give this example in this audience. He gave this answer once. A reporter asked him, what miracles have you come to show? And the reporter was asking, expecting some being able to produce a mango from thin air or levitate or, had all these ideas. And Srila Prabhupada responded, I can be in a room full of naked women and not the least bit disturbed. I mean, the reporter could not even begin to understand what Srila Prabhupada was talking about. But the point was that the advanced devotee, they can be in the midst of temptation, but it's because it has no registering to them because their consciousness is so far beyond that it doesn't even register. So this is the position of one in Bhava Bhakti. We are in the don't look, don't call, don't avoid all temptations. But soon, by good chanting, all those temptations won't even register. And one doesn't have to even abstain from that because they're so embedded in the hierarchy. So anyways, these are 9 symptoms. We won't go through all of them in the interest of time, but just wanted to share where they are. So now, verse number 7. Yugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravishayatam shunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. So now we're transitioning from this mature stage of bhava to prema. This verse 7, if you remember from the original organization, is a transition. So these, ecstatic symptoms of anubhav start to manifest: the dancing, rolling on the ground, loud outbursts, bodily spasms. I remember when I first read Chaitanya Charitamrita, I was so confused by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the associates going through these. I said, that sounds painful. Slamming on the ground after jumping in the air. Obviously, it was in a very immature state, but these are the symptoms that we start to see in prema bhakti. And the prema bhakti symptoms are so extreme. The attraction and affection, it's like intensified, molten lava. It's just so intense. And there becomes to the point, there's like a possessiveness of Krishna. This is my Krishna. It goes to that level of intensified love. And we see one of the important features in this verse, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and many of the sahajyas, the pretenders, have really have misconstrued badly that the actual highest realm of love with Krishna is in separation. This Vipralamba Seva. If we read Chaitanya Charitamrita, particular Antya Lila, you see this mood of separation. And this separation, it's like, in one way, again, you read it, you think how painful, right? The residents of Vrindavan, what they endured when Krishna left for Mathura, or when Lord Nityananda left with the sannyasi, what Hadai Pandit and his mother, just complete devastation and pain. But actually, this pain of separation is it's a very intensified love. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the example is given how we can understand. Like, if you put an ice cube on your skin, it'll become so cold it feels like it's burning, hot, but it's not hot; it's cold. So we externally see pain and devastation, but actually, it is this intensified love that is experienced only in Vipralamba, in this mood of separation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reminding us that, what is our desire here is a separation. And how to kind of, again, use a mundane example, right? I can do an experiment. Okay, everyone take a breath and then hold it. Hold it. Okay. After just a few moments, what are we missing? As much as we feel separation from air, the devotee, a few seconds of separation is like being separated from oxygen. But we could hold for a few seconds and be okay. For the devotee who has so intense love for Krishna, the blinking of the eyes is too much. We don't even notice the blinking of the eyes. But the devotee, the gopis, they are chastising Lord Brahma like anything. Oh, again, they are speaking, you fool! How you made these dumb things? At least a camel has see-through eyelids, so they can see through them. But I have these, I can't see Krishna for one chakshusha. Just 1/12 of a second. But that's unbearable pain and separation. This is the mood. How are we? How am I? Finish it? I'll see you tomorrow. Done. Yeah, I finished my rounds. Not I enjoyed the whole, I finished. Finishing is the goal. So we have a little ways to go. But the devotee of Prema Bhakti, even 1 millisecond away from Krishna, is like fully intolerable. And this depth of attraction, how it's going to come? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'll read one quick verse, if my eyes permit. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says he gives a unbelievable verse. So, as I mentioned, this all comes from these verses are captured in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the last chapter, and so the verse is quoted. But this is verse 41. He says, "The three worlds have become void because of separation from Govinda." Now hear this. "I feel as if I were burning alive in a slow fire." This is the pain of separation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressing that one experiences when they are in Krishna. Such a intensified love, right? So again, our position is a little different. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that this is the unique feature of the mood, that they're always in this desiring this mood of separation. And we see in our Sad Goswami Astakam this Hey Radhe Hare Bhajadevi Nando Sunakuta. Where are you, Krishna? Where are you, Radharani? Where have you gone? To Govardhan? To Kalindi? Where? This mood of searching. And we see this in the whole Antya-lila, those last 12 years, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was fixed in Puri, is just absorbed in running and searching for Krishna. So this is the actual embodiment of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching, is this mood of Vipralambha Seva. So this we see. So now we'll come to the final verse and then read a few more verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ashrisya va paraitam pinashtumam adarshanamaramatam korotu va yatha tata va viradato lampato mat prananatastu sa eva napara. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so if he harms me, rough me by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do everything, anything, for he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Here, the key word. What is the key word in this verse? Unconditional. This is the mood. This is the ultimate mood of the devotee who has achieved pure Krishna. Krishna is the complete life and soul. He is their greatest treasure. Nothing else matters. And this is the perfection. It's so high. It's so elevated that even Krishna himself cannot understand the intensity of love that his pure devotee has. And so what does he do? He comes himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Why? To experience that intensity of love. Think about that. Krishna, the supreme controller. He is Anadir Adir. He is the source of everything. He is Purnam, complete. Yet, he himself cannot understand the depth, the intensity of Krishna. And so he comes to experience it. So this is how powerful this is. And this is and so, at one point, I think we often feel, wow, I'll never get there. That's not possible. Well, that is factually incorrect. Why? We'll prove it now. We are part and parcel of Krishna. This Krishna Prema, Srila Prabhupada writes right in the beginning of Nectar Devotion. He says that the practice of sadhana bhakti and through Bhava Bhakti to Krishna Prema is not to bring some new skill. It is to bring out what is already there. We already have this highest love for Krishna. And where is it? Right here. But it is covered. It is subdued. And Prabhupada uses the beautiful example that when a child is born, a mother and father, they do not give the ability for that child to walk. But what do? They bring it out by teaching it, holding its hand, giving it some process. But the ability to walk was given by the Lord. So similarly, our Krishna Prema, it is lying dormant within all of our hearts. So while this may feel maybe out of reach or very far away, it is actually lying within all of us. If I say, oh, I want to become, the world's best cricket player, well, that's not within my capacity. I don't have the physical attribute features. It's no matter how much I practice, it's impossible, right? But to awaken this Krishna Prema, this highest that is within each and every one of our capacity. Because that is our constitutional position. That is our original position. We had it once. All we are trying to do is reawaken it. It was awake before. That should give us great confidence, great hope that if I follow the process, if I follow the instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it will happen. And it can happen. So while we're going to read some very mind-blowing examples of this mood, we should hold with great confidence. I can do it also, but not on my own. With the mercy of Krishna and my drowning in an ocean-like intensity of desire, it can happen for us as well. This highest mood. So all we have to do is purify. And of course, we know how we're going to purify by going out and cultivating a garden. How are we going to purify? Great chanting, offenseless chanting of the holy names. That is the process that we're going to do. I think in that can we read some verses from this final chapter that it gives the mood when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives this verse of Ashri Seva Pararitam Pinashtimam. He then makes some other comments that are just unbelievably amazing. So give me just 1 second to find my place. I'm sorry for the short delay here. Okay. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that this mood of unconditional, make me brokenhearted by not being present before me, handling me roughly by his embrace. The absolute perfection of unconditional love is Srimati Radha. She is the perfection of this mood. And these verses, they're a little sensitive, but again, in this Sangha, I think we can discuss them. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gave them. Today is his disappearance day. So we're taking his mercy to just hear and understand the depth of what unconditional love means. But even with this build-up, you'll be blown away. So it explains that while Srimati Radharani was thinking in this way, the character of natural love became manifest in her pure heart. Okay. So the verse says, I am the maidservant at the lotus feet of Krishna. He is the embodiment of transcendental happiness and mellows. If he likes, he can tightly embrace me and make me feel oneness with him, or by not giving me his audience, he may corrode my mind and body. Nevertheless, it is he who is the Lord of my life. So again, whether he is close or far, that's unconditional. Just hear the decision of my mind, Krishna, who is the life, Lord of my life. Sometimes Krishna gives up the company of other gopis and becomes controlled by me. Thus he manifests good fortune and gives others distress by performing his loving affairs with me. This is Srimati Radharani.
Or, since after all he is very cunning, obstinate, with a propensity to cheat, he takes the company of others. He then indulges in loving affairs with them in front of me to give me distress in my mind. Nevertheless, he is the Lord of my life. I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna. For the happiness is the goal of my life. However, if he feels, hear this statement. However, if he feels happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. Can I read that again? If he feels happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. Oh, how unconditional love exists in the heart of his pure devotee. It goes further. If Krishna, attracted by the beauty of some other woman, wants to enjoy with her, but is unhappy because he cannot get her, I fall down at her feet, catch her hand, and bring her to Krishna to engage for his happiness. I don't know. It keeps going. I'll leave the rest for you to read. It's unbelievable. This is unconditional. Now, what does it mean for all of us? It means when we are doing our service, we should think Krishna is the object of happiness. I'm trying to please Krishna. If I am rolling chapatis in the kitchen because it's my turn to cook for the Lord, and someone else comes and I know, oh, they make better chapatis than me, I should not get my elbows out and say, hey, my service today. I should think, let me assist you. You know how to make nice chapatis? Because my goal should be Krishna's happiness. Not, I want to do this service. Right? Temple managers know. All the quote unquote prime services everybody signs up for. But the so-called less glamorous services, the devotee says, whatever service makes Krishna. Think about this for 1 second. If our goal is to please Krishna, I'll make the example. Pardon me, I'll just go to a little extreme. If my options in services is to perform midnight arti to the Lordship, or to clean the toilets all day during Janmashtami, which service is best? Of course, you all say, oh, clean the toilets. That's what we're supposed to say. But just think about this for a second. Krishna knows. How long is the line of those wanting to perform arti to him in the evening? Very long. How long is the line for those willing to do that cleaning service? So imagine, when Krishna sees, oh, my devotee is willing to do that service to please my guests who have come to see me on my appearance day, which service will please Krishna more? Is there any doubt? Any doubt? Of course, which service will please us more? Yeah, we know. But if our mood is which service will please Krishna? So how to bring about at least some glimpses of this unconditional. We cannot compete or even get close to what we read, but we can apply in our day-to-day practice, keeping in center what I can do to please Krishna. Looking for where I can be. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us this principle, das and das and das. Servant to the servant to the servant. Why? Very Borijan Prabhu gives us, wonderful example. I repeat it all the time, hoping someday I'll understand it. He says that the devotee understands that we might think that, okay, if I am like 20 layers removed from the Lord, I'm in the back position. I'm in the back row, right? But the devotee, their focus is not where my position is. What is their focus? Krishna's happiness. What is Radharani's focus? Whether I can, does she want to be with Krishna? No. She says, whether you're close or far, what is her focus? Krishna's happiness. If Krishna's happiness is elsewhere, she'll facilitate that. So Dasana Dasananda is a simple analysis. Okay, if I am serving Krishna, then that means I am in between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. Well, who can serve Krishna better, Srimati Radharani or me? Okay, Srimati Radharani. I'll step one step back. Okay, but if I am serving Srimati Radharani, then I am in between her and Lalita Devi. Well, who can serve Srimati Radharani better, me or Lalita? Oh, okay, I go one step back. Well, then I'm between one of the Manjaris, and like this, the analysis goes, and we find our rightful position. But we experience no less happiness. We don't lament, because again, spiritual world is full of happiness. There's no slightest unfulfilled desire. So what happens? Our happiness is coming from where? Not our position in line. Our happiness is coming from seeing Krishna happy. When Krishna is happy, everything we want is manifest. But this only happens in a purified heart. Because we are not anyabilashita shunyam. We have some desire. I want to do this. I want that. Maybe there's even some subtle desires of recognition. I want to offer arti that everybody sees. Oh, I am offering art. We admit it. There's always these impurities. We should own them. We don't have to be embarrassed by them. Own them. Yeah, they're my impurities. So what am I going to do? More time in the bead bag. They're there, no problem. Because Krishna will remove them. But these are the ways we can indicate how in our day-to-day practice we can develop this unconditional mood of service. And if we do, then this taste, this experience in spiritual life. So the challenge for us, one time, next time, take the service you don't like at all. The one service you don't like, and do that. And you see your experience. Because Krishna is going to see, my child is doing something he doesn't like to do. And then you tell, what is your taste in that service at the end? You will see, very practically, this in action. Don't take my word for it. It's very powerful. So this is an opportunity for us to do this. So this is, of course, the perfected stage, which, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Remember, he came to give this highest realm of love. Is there any higher love than what we just read? It doesn't exist. And he made that available to each and every one of us by just following these 8 verses. How deep and potent they are. That this, what no one else can achieve through all kinds of other Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us to in 8 verses. So this is our opportunity. So I'll just conclude with a few, and then we'll open up for more discussion. So why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left these verses, we know this is the mercy. So this is a summary from Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So the first verse, he says, teaches us the process of congregational chanting and how we can realize the ineptitude, the lack of attraction we have. The third verse gives us the procedure for chanting this no offenses. And the fourth, how to become free of the detrimental desires, the sand in the sweet rice that prevents us from tasting the holy names. The fifth reveals, I am eternal servant, eternally. The sixth verse, how one experiences his good fortune of coming closer to Krishna. Of course, the mood of separation that one obtains, and then the highest perfection of finding this absolute goal. So this is the Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan that we have been talking about. So this is one benediction that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave. I'll just read it. It's a very powerful. Those surrendered souls who read the Shishtashtaka prayers, which are the nectarian words flowing from the mouth of the Supreme Lord Gauranga, with devotion, will certainly be attracted to the honey from Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And like the intoxicated bees, plunged into the lily-filled lake of Krishna Prema. 401 years after the advent of Lord Gauranga, the comment called Sri Sanmadhan Bhashyam has been composed by me, Srila Kedarnath Bhaktivinoda. So this is the benediction that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving, that the surrendered souls who read these Shikshashtaka prayers with devotion. So now we know why Srila Prabhupada established every day we read these prayers. And again, as I open, the goal is that we'll try to read these prayers with more intention and more absorption into the meaning, which is why. Okay. So I'll conclude. So I hope we're being inspired to. You don't know them yet, and if you are reciting them, but reciting them every day, um, and to have some greater appreciation for how important these verses are, um, and to read the English translation, unless you are well versed in Sanskrit, to understand what it is that we are reading. Very, very important. And I think sometimes we underdo this in all of our verses, right? We chant Gurvastaka prayers, we chant Gurvandana prayers, but are we actually understanding what it is that we're chanting? And so, at least in the Shikshashtakam prayers, reading the translation daily is so, so important. Even you can say more than Sanskrit, if you only have time for one, read, because that's what's going to help our consciousness and help us prepare to approach the chanting of the holy names. It's why Srila Prabhupada established that we chant this before our japa to prepare us to embark on this process of japa. Hopefully, we can work to make chanting again the most important activity of our day. We have to protect this to its fullest. Not I finish my rounds during the gaps that present itself during the day. You know, I get to them at the end at some point or another. Of course, there are practical grahasta limitations that we have to be cognizant of. We cannot be fanatical as well. We have to be practical. But at least there can be some lamentation in the heart when we're not able to achieve our rounds nicely because of some practical realities. So again, but make this the most important activity of our day. And how we do that, by trying to rise early, by trying to chant in one session to the extent possible. No two-handed chanting. It only takes one hand to chant. So drop the phone, drop the spoon, drop the steering wheel, whatever else. Hopefully, no motorcycles. But as much as we can. And we're coming up on Kartik Mas. It is the great month for us to make a vow, a Kartik Vrat, to maybe improve, intensify our chanting. So if not for eternity, at least for the next month, we can think of, I'm going to finish my rounds 1 hour earlier than I normally do, or I'm going to, whatever, give up 15 minutes of sleep, or, I'm not going to double task, triple task, whatever it is you can do. You can try to make some vrata during this month of Kartik, focused on improving the quality of our chanting. This is because we can see what is the fruit, the result, ultimate success. Krishna. Such beautiful experience. So that is our hope. Um, Hopefully we have some, increased appreciation for focusing on these 10 offenses and how we can eliminate them. Because again, we must remove these 10 offenses to develop the attachment to the holy names. That is our misfortune, is no attachment. So focusing and working on these 10 offenses to the best possible. And, pray intensely. Right? Like when we're drowning in an ocean, we have to intensify our prayer, intensify our desire. Because Krishna hears. Unfortunately, Krishna doesn't even hear what we speak. He knows what's in the core of our heart. So that is both good and bad, right? If everybody knew what's in the core of our heart, nobody would invite us for lunch. But Krishna knows everything in the core of our heart. So we have to really intensify our desire. desire. And my deepest gratitude to all of you because they allowed me to spend more time in the Shikshashtaka prayers. I am the laziest of all lazy people. And so by preparing for this, I had great pleasure in reading it. So my deepest gratitude to all of you. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. And so I'll leave you with one final inspiration, final, before we have some discussion, which is another comment from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Shishtashtaka prayers are the essence of all Vedic scriptures. Hear that. How broad are the Vedic scriptures? It would fill 10 rooms of this. And he's saying these 8 verses, which all of us have memorized already. This is the essence of all Vedic scriptures. For Rasika Bhakta, pure devotees who relish rasas, these prayers, having emanated from the lips of the Supreme Lord, are indeed the absolute truth. That means there's nothing else to search for. There's nothing else more to know. Absolute truth means the ultimate. Hence, they should be read, recited, and worshipped monthly, weekly, daily by, I think that means sincere and fortunate souls. These prayers should be their constant companion, learned and taken to heart. So this is the wish and desire, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we all can pray together that this can manifest in each of our hearts and we can make great progress in the process of devotional service. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we have time for some questions, discussion. I was keeping an eye on the clock. Mine says 1 hour, 21 minutes. So. Any comments, realizations, questions, discussion we can have? Everybody is thoroughly complete. Oh no, that the measurement of the time is the blinking of a second. It feels like 12 years or more is the verse. So it's not exactly 12, but the point is that the blinking of the eyes, it in separation from Krishna, just like again when we hold our breath, right? It felt like we were holding our breath for hours, but there was only a few seconds. Right? So in a very anxious position, a few moments feel like days. So similarly, when one is so deeply attached to Krishna that the momentary separation, it feels like 12 years or more. That's the expression that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just trying to get us to appreciate the depth of attachment one has for Krishna. Not that I am aware of. Maybe somebody else knows. I have not heard of any specific of 12. Yes, sir. Yes, that is the um, perplexity of devotional service, that Krishna is all knowing. He is the source of everything. In the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi Leela, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains the reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. He first gives the external reasons. Then he gives the internal reasons. And in the internal reasons, he describes this competition, that there's a happiness competition. That when Srimati Radharani sees Krishna happy, her happiness increases. So when Krishna sees Srimati Radharani happy, his happiness increases. And when she sees his, what happens? And Krishna said, wait a minute, why I can never catch up to her? Now, how you can explain that? Because if he is Anadir Adir, Govinda, he's the source of everything. Happiness is one of his sources, right? So how the source of all, someone can have more? It's not possible, right? How the child can have more money than the father? It's not possible. But we can't apply our material logic to the spiritual realm. So the point is that the depth of love for the pure devotee is so profound that even the Supreme Lord is bewildered by it. And that's why we see that this Bhava Bhakti and this Prema Bhakti, it's Sudarlabha. Krishna does not give it freely. Why? Because he completely loses himself. He completely surrenders everything to his pure devotee. Right? We'll not surrender ourselves to anybody, say, hey, tie my hands. We'll be very careful. Does this person really love me? Do they have any ill motive? Even the slightest? So Krishna will test us. He'll test us. He'll test us with all kinds of opulence, all kinds of fame. He'll test us on the way to Krishna Prema. Making sure, what is our real desire? Is it unconditional love? Or is it some position, some status? Because he completely surrendered to his love of the souls. So when Krishna says, Mame Kam Sharanam Braja, remember, it's a two-way street of surrender, not a one-way street. Krishna is fully surrendered to his devotee, and his devotee is fully surrendered to Krishna. That's why when Durvasa Muni goes to Krishna and says, hey, Chakra, and he says, I'm helpless. Hey, it's your chakra. How you're helpless? Anybody says? He says, the only thing that can occupy my heart are my pure devotees. My thoughts of my pure devotees. That's the only thing. He's not thinking of his opulence. He's not thinking of his power, his role as Krishna. The only thing in his heart. And what is the only thing in the heart of his devotees? It's a two-way street. But it's so deep that even Krishna himself cannot understand. That's why he comes as Chaitanya. So this is the nature. Again, we have to be careful not to try to process it with our own logic, right? But we take from Shastra that this is the... But we get a clue into the depth of love exchange between Krishna and his devotees. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much again for your kind generosity to tolerate me in this presentation. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shastakam Praggers ki jai, Shri Kartik Mahotsav ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Just staying with the example of ocean. Thank you very much for taking us deeper into this